we're seeing a rise in crime figures, whether it's robberies, thefts, knife attacks. It's going up. Annual crime figures from the Office for National Statistics show knife and gun crimes and robberies and shoplifting have all skyrocketed. Official statistics show there was a noticeable increase in robberies involving a knife or sharp instrument. There were 49,489 of these types of offences recorded by police just last year, and West Midlands was the policing area with the highest amount of these types of offences. London was the second highest. Leroy, the obvious question, what is driving these crime figures up?
Well, I think there's a combination of things. Police are not taking these smaller crimes, which are like gateway crimes, like shopliftings, seriously enough. Because I don't know if you remember, when Theresa May was Home Secretary, she made a declaration that anything under £200 wouldn't have the appropriate resources applied. You wouldn't get an officer turning up. Basically, that's been building up for a number of years. And on top of that, you're getting a lack of officers because we know we lost over 20,000 cops, which they're building back up, but the numbers are still low. But it's created this sort of hesitation to deploy officers to these assets, to investigate, because a lot of these things now are organised through social media. TikTok, Snapchat, all these things. So you've now got a volume of people. Then on top of you've got cost of living crisis. And then the courts themselves are not taking it seriously enough and giving appropriate sentences because the prisons are cell. So we've got this perfect storm of these smaller crimes that building up to larger crimes. And, of course, the fact that police are not doing a good enough job in the Met, West Midlands, because they're all in special measures. They're not getting the basics right. So it gives the suggestion to certain people with that intent that, you know, they can get away with it if they try it. And even if they get caught, it's a slap on the wrist. Yeah. It just seems to be something that's taken over a certain element of the public and they can justify it. And the last thing is I heard that certain people, I think they're Robin Hoods. So they go in to supermarkets, stealing mass, and then giving it back to food banks. And you think to yourself, sorry? Or selling it on at a cheaper rate. And I think even that, trying to justify that you can call yourself like Robin Hood characters for criminality is totally outlandish. It just shows you how people think about these things.
Dr. Renee, are you surprised by these numbers? I certainly wasn't. I see crime happening every day, all the time. Wherever you go, you're seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, and I think they're probably higher than we're seeing, because I think lots of crime just goes unreported now because people think, why bother? No one's going to take any notice. No one's going to solve it. You know, the only reason you report a crime now is if you want a number for your insurance company. It's as simple as that. I think I agree with everything you've said, and I think it's all of those things, but I want to take it right the way back to parenting.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
This is about how these children have been brought up. And I was thinking about this morning, and when I was young, in my early 20s, on very hard times. I could only afford to pay the mortgage and my son's childcare, and I used to eat apples. I didn't ever think of going out and stealing food because my mum brought me up that was wrong. Absolutely. And you didn't do that. So we've got to go back to parenting, respect for society, respect for other people, instead of this constant me, it's all about me and I can do what I want. There's no respect. And that engenders all of this, and then we've got no prisons and we've got no police, and you promote what you permit. So by saying we're not going to prosecute anything under 200 quid, we've basically said it's OK, you can do this, guys.
Well, that's it. Rather than saying, oh, this is petty crime, it should just be, this is crime. Full stop. If you break the law, you break the law. It's not, you've broken the law a little bit, so, you know, you break the law or you don't. It's a crime or it's not a crime. Saying things are petty crimes to me is ridiculous. But, Leroy, I don't think the police are completely to blame in this, which is going to be strange for our viewers who know me. I'll bash the police any opportunity I get. But I think supermarkets could do a bit more. The big supermarkets, the Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury's, etc., they could be doing more to reduce the amount of theft that's going on in their stores. Taking away manned tills and replacing them with robots, I think, makes it easier for people to steal. Certainly, I've been partial to not paying my 10 pence for the plastic bag. A little crime, I admit to.
You were going to be arrested.
I'm a bad boy. Talk to me, you know what they're getting when they sign me. But in terms of even the security that I see in the supermarkets, a couple of guys who aren't going to tackle anyone and just kind of stand there in their high-vis jackets to watch, what's the point?
Yeah, well, I think they're now starting to wake up, a lot of these larger supermarkets or chains, whatever, because I saw quite recently that there's, I think it was, I won't mention the brand or the organisation, but they had these automatic doors that they have an ANPR.
Tesco are doing it.
It's
Tesco, yeah.
So they're closing it. You know, I'm just hoping that, you know, the software, it hasn't got any sort of biases, because, you know, with ANPR and facial recognition, there was that ethnicity bias, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely there needs to be challenging more at even before they get in. But I take the point about society and families. You know, similar to yourself, Freddie. I was told, I was scared of my dad more than the police.
Yeah.
Because I knew bringing police to his yard was a no-no.
Yeah.
And so automatically you knew right from wrong, and you instill that in other people, that peer-to-peer mentoring. And that's one of the things I've set up over the last 20 years. In fact, I'm going to the charity after this interview. It's called Void Youth. And we talk about rights and responsibilities. And there was a possibility to get into bolstering early intervention and prevention programs for young people, so that they don't get caught up into, whether it's social media or otherwise, into this narrative. You can go and steal because you can justify it, because you may not have this certain thing, you know, because it's into this instant gratification thing. The government, unfortunately, did not in any way invest in that. You remember EMA, Education Maintenance Allowance?
Yeah.
That stopped a lot of young people to even think about, oh, I need to, you know, bunk a fare, or, you know, steal this or that, because they had that little support and they helped families.
Yeah.
So all of these things that used to support families, whether in hard times or, you know, they've been subject to all sorts of problems within the family, there was that support. There's just no support now. Now, I'm not saying families don't have a role, but they have been undermined in so many ways. And when you've got a cost of living crisis and you can't, you either eat or heat, whatever it is, there's some tough decisions.
I do accept that, but I don't.
Yeah. Okay,
because if you speak to my 80-year-old mum, who grew up post-war, she was born in 43.
Sorry, 18-year-old?
80.
Oh, I was like...
80. She grew up... She was born in 43. She grew up in post-war. There were 6 children in the house.
Yeah.
There was no money. There was no heating. You know, there was an outside toilet. She will tell you that their parents made sure that they had clean clothes every day, even if they were second-hand, that they had food on the table, even if it was bread and dripping, and they were taught right from wrong. So you can be poor and still have values and morals and teach it to your children. And I think the other problem that we have now is schools. Because, you know, in my day, if I'd have gone home and said to my mum, oh, Mr. So-and-so gave me a detention today, she would have said, good, what did you do?
Yeah.
Now you've got parents at the school gates screaming at teachers, how dare you give my Johnny a detention? So once again, Johnny is learning that there is no authority that you have to respect, you know, because your parents don't, and they're just learning from a very young age that nothing apart from them matters.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that example, so when I was growing up, I grew up in the West Midlands, which according to this report
is the worst.
Is the worst place ever. And look how I've turned out, working on this channel. Yeah, I've got right down the drain. But my parents would send me to school. I'd have to get the school bus to school. Once I'm in school, I'm the teacher's problem.
Yeah.
Once school finishes, I either have to go to this sports club or that chess club or this music lesson and be home by this time. And that's how it was
You're
controlled.
well drilled.
Yeah, exactly, completely.
Yeah.
Why, when I walk around London or Birmingham even, I see kids hanging out streets in their school uniforms. The school finished an hour and a half ago. They're just casually hanging outside the Tesco's or Sainsbury's or hanging outside a bus stop. Why has society suddenly allowed for our kids to do what they want? It's as if now the kids, the teenagers, are now running our cities.
Are. Yeah. But part of it is what you say. You know, if there aren't any after-school clubs, any after-school sport, youth clubs, then these kids don't have anywhere to go. And I do, you know, speak to that. But also, I think the government have got a role to play in this, because when you start taking away parental responsibilities, like you can't decide whether or not your child has a certain medication once they get to 13 because they're a grown-up, or they start, well, no, this is important, because we've slowly said to parents, we will parent your child for you. So where does that end? Where does that parenting,
I think that's where they're getting confused, because there is that nanny state, but at the same time, they're throwing parents under the bus by not giving them a clear direction on how they support them. Now, so often, especially with the young people who are working Voyage Youth, we need to support them to even go to certain clubs after they finish with us because their parents can't afford it. And that's what I'm saying about the cost of living. Some of these groups and organisations, there's a cost.
Yeah.
And so we even help them with their time and give them, some sort of donation or support and help. And we work with the parents as well. And, some of them have got real heart-rending stories of what they have to go to on a day-to-day basis. So, I just think the government has got a lot to answer for in terms of austerity right across the piece and how, remember, Liz Truss tanked the economy and we still haven't recovered from that. Yeah. And I'm not anyway justifying crime because, crime is crime and we have to deal with it. But there needs to be a combination between early intervention, prevention, so that people don't go into this world thinking, someone owes me something.
Yeah.
This sense of expectation that, I own a job. You've got to work hard and graft to get these things.
I think some people think that our police officers sit around in their patrol cars eating Scotch eggs all day. But if I'm honest, they are understaffed. Arguably, they're underpaid. But they are certainly overwhelmed with the amount of crimes that are happening. Yeah. We can't expect the coppers to turn up to every single supermarket, every mini-mart, every corner store that says, I've had a shoplifter come in and they stole £20 worth of goods. Yeah. The cops realistically aren't going to do that. But then, as you say, the result of that is people, the thieves are thinking, right, it's happy days.
Yeah, and they got a green light. And for me, it's going to take years to reverse. I don't want it to be gloom and doom, but it's not happened overnight. It's been building for the last 10, 15 years. And as a result of that, it's not just about investing in support services. We've got to get politicians even acting morally. I mean, how many politicians at the moment have been subject to all sorts of, outlandish behaviour, and they're supposed to be the professionals, like police officers. Police officers, again, they seem to be subject to a disgusting behaviour as misogyny, sexism, racism, whatever. And it just seems to be the norm. And so I think there's definitely a moral compass shift in society. Certain communities think, this is just a joke. No, it's not a joke. That is someone's life. You're stigmatising and sometimes bullying people from a young age. I mean, I'm a grandfather and I go into the schools, and my previous grandson's school was hard hitting for him. And he said, Granddad, I just can't take this anymore. And the young man was 8, right? He's now 10 next month, and we had to change schools. And you can see the difference in him because there's a community in that school. And it's not about, you can't play football and you can't do this, and bullying him. And he's a total transformed person. So I think I think it's families, it's schools, it's wider communities. We need to take responsibility. And that's why we work with young people in Voyage Youth to say, listen, you can change your environment, not become a victim of it. Yeah. Now, it's a bit idealistic, but it needs to be done because that's how it has to be people power to make this shift that we all want to see.
Dr. Renee, do we not need to build more prisons as well?
Oh, more prisons? Maybe we just have to be tougher on crime.
But where do you put them when you're tough on them?
No, the causes of crime.
The causes of crime, yeah.
Definitely tough on the causes of it.
But if you want to arrest all these people, what are you going to do with them when you've arrested them 20 times?
Well, there's diversion schemes.
And maybe we don't put them in prison. Maybe they've got a tag on their ankle and they're not allowed to leave their 100-metre square place.
What about the knife crime?
Well, that's I'm not Rishi Sunak. That's me all the question. I ain't got the answer.
I would build more prisons. I would build more prisons.
You build more prisons?
The thing is, look at the American scenario. If prisons was the solution, their crime would have been solved.
But they're not on the streets, are they? But at least they're not on the streets.
No, but crime's still going through the roof.
Yeah, but this crime is going through the roof. Look at the shootings.
Yeah.
They've got a different gun culture. There's more guns than people in America. But the thing is, they warehouse people for centuries, and it has not helped. All it does is the void is filled by other youngsters because unfortunately, this thing about thug life and the glamorization, the gangster glamour, it's in the music, the videos. There's a lot of youngsters who get caught up in that, especially if they're in school or hard knocks, a deprived area, crime hotspots. They already think, wow, I want the garms, I want the cribs, I want the cars, the girls, everything, because it's shown in that sort of social media thing. And no one's really sort of understanding how these things being glorified is sucking people into the pipeline of crime.
So unplug all social media then. There you are.